Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flizanes, your host, and thank you for downloading today's episode. So on Tuesday, I think I had apologized to everybody because I was getting emails from my website into an inbox I wasn't checking. And I printed out a bunch of different testimonials, thank yous, things that people had sent me, and also some questions. And I'm going to take today's show to answer one of those questions. So I received this email. It said, I recently listened to your 3 steps to effective communication after your emotional responsibility reminder from your other podcast. First off, it blew my mind, but I still struggle with how to solve my connection need without involving my boyfriend. He says I'm needy because I would like to hear from him at least once within a 24-hour period. I need connection, specifically communication, because we're in a long-distance relationship as of August, and I feel anxious when I don't hear from him. I understand he is busy and needs space, but really, one text? How can I create a strategy without depending on him? So, thank you for that email. I'm not going to call out your name just in case you don't want me to, and I would hate to call somebody out who then got mad at me for outing them on the podcast. I'm going to pull out my needs and feelings list, and I'm going to call you Bella. So Bella, so you listen to the 3 steps to effective communication, and I've done this exercise in both of my workshops. I did it at Releasing What Weighs You Down in January. I did it again in September, and there at least half of the room did both the January and the September event. And I will tell you that my feeling is that a lot of them past the January event, they might have picked this up once or twice, but they didn't actually practice it. So when they got into the September event and did it again, this time we got to go a little bit deeper and a little bit more clearly. And even when I use it, I've used it with some customer service clients that Doug and I have right now, and it's a work in progress. So it's about finding the real reason. And here's what I have to say about that. When you start with the 3-step process for everybody who has not heard the 3 steps to effective communication. It's episode 118 on the Fit to Love podcast in season 1. And I will probably reproduce it here at some point in time. But for now, go back and listen to that show. Step number 1 is to identify your feelings. So I'm sitting here with the feelings and needs list. There are 100 different feeling words. The feelings, for most women especially, are easy to pick out. And we often understand how we feel. The next part, the second question, is to identify the need that's not being met. And how you know you're at the right need is when the sentence doesn't say, I feel this because my need for this, and how to rectify that is I need you to do this differently, or I need her or him or them to do something for me to feel better. So if you're still somehow involving other people, we actually haven't hit the real need. So I'll give you an example. One of my friends, who's one of the participants who came to both events, she had a need for safety, but it wasn't so easy to find right away. We went to needs and she thought, well, why isn't control on this list? And I said, well, what's the issue? Well, the issue is when I do something at work and I pass it off to the next person to deal with it, and then they screw it up and we're on a deadline. What happens when, I need them to do it better so it doesn't come back on me? Well, in this situation, we are delegating, again, power to other people. So I said, well, let's take this a little bit deeper. Play out the story of what you're telling yourself about the situation. So the situation goes that I create this document or this system, and then I hand it off to other people, and then they screw it up. We're on a deadline. Somehow it comes back to me to fix it. Now we're past the deadline. The clients are unhappy. And I feel fear that I may lose my job. So what's the real need? The real need's for security. I asked her, what would you feel if you had $20,000 in your bank right now? And she's like, I wouldn't care if I got fired. Right. So the real need is for safety. The real need isn't for controlling others' behavior because you can't control others' behavior. So Bella, my question to you is, your need might be for peace. That's what comes to me right now. Your need is for peace. Your need might be also for trust. But we can't finish the sentence without you saying, I need you to do something so I trust. And that's where we know we are not at the deepest level of what the real need is yet, because it involves someone else behaving in a way. Your boyfriend probably is busy, but even if he's not, your anxiety, your fears aren't created by his response to you. It's fleeting to look at someone else and say, as long as you're behaving in a way that pleases me, I feel good. Our goal in healing is to get to the place where it doesn't matter what anyone else does, and we still feel good. So if I had to look at this without knowing you, he does need space. I would say from one level, you probably need to have a focus and a passion outside of him. Something that lights you up, something you're invested into, something you care about very deeply that has nothing to do with him. Because for women, more than men, but men do it too, when you have a relationship, and it could be even a parent to a child, when your only passion and purpose is in somebody else, then you're constantly depending on their behavior to be pleasing to you in order for you to keep appreciating and enjoying the situation, which is codependence. It's very dependent on somebody else, and we're trying to move away from dependence. And really, the only dependence that we're really seeking is that trust in a higher power, the trust in our higher self, the trust in source energy or creator or God or whatever you want to call it. That's the only real alignment that we're all striving for. And everything short of that is really distracting and projecting all of our beliefs onto a human or an animal or a child or a situation. So in the situation that your boyfriend needs space, it's you're constantly probably waiting around from him because you don't have any other focus. Maybe you don't have a job you love, or maybe you're not doing something you're passionate about. So he's the only thing you're really excited about. So you're constantly waiting to get that connection from him so that you feel excited. But that's unfair to him, because then he feels, and that's for all women, by the way, or men, who direct all of your love and attention and excitement and passion and purpose on your partner. The partner's going to feel a lot of pressure to live up to giving you happiness. And it's not their job to give you happiness. It's your job to give you happiness. So how can we find your happiness that has nothing to do with him? Well, you have to find something that you're passionate about. What are you here to do on this earth that has nothing to do with him, that has only to do with you? If you find that, and if you're living that, then while he's probably, an enormous bright light and star in your life, he isn't the focus. And if he should go away, you still have something you're really passionate about because you feel purposeful, you feel in alignment, you feel like you have resilience because you're so dedicated to this thing or this cause or this bringing something into the world or being creative or trusting this whole process. So how can you create a strategy without depending on him? Well, first we need to change what your real need is. Your real need is for peace and possibly trust. But there have to be trust in something bigger than him. It has to be trust in the process, trust in source or God or creator, trust in your higher being, trust in a higher plan, trust in that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to, and that you'll feel the right impulse and take action when you need to. Peace, because you're not dependent on him to bring you happiness. So, relationships change. And while even those of us that feel everything is fixable and we try super hard and we learn everything we possibly can under the sun from every inch of psychology that we can get our hands on, at the end of the day, you can't control anybody else. So when relationships change, what does that mean? Are you okay? When we make someone else part of our living, part of our need, then we don't honor who we really are. When we make someone part of our need for peace, need for joy, need for happiness, we have already given our power away. And it means that that person holds the key to our happiness, which isn't the case. It's not true. You can make it true for yourself by doing that, but it isn't true in the bigger scheme of things. So if we look at your peace and your trust, how could you start learning to do that? So your strategy might be to find or uncover, because I believe that we all have deep creative passions. We have things that really light us up, things that we really love to do, things we love to talk about or experience. And most of us are repressing that. Most of us are following what makes the money, what makes sense, what the family believes in, what the family supports, what your spouse supports, what's not going to ruffle anybody's feathers. And we often live in a place of allowing others to dictate our lives. So the first strategy that I would recommend for you is to find your purpose. And I don't mean purpose meaning there's like one thing you're here to do on the earth. I mean, what are you passionate about? If you were completely alone and you were to learn how to be happy by yourself, with only yourself for the rest of your life, how would you live your life? Where would you find your joy? What brings you joy in terms of what you think about and what you do? And that's an important thing for people to learn, especially women. For a long time, men were the ones who had purpose and women brought light. But I think as we've moved into these third stage relationships and into the era of consciousness that we are now, women recognize that it's as important for us to feel a purpose beyond motherhood and beyond sisterhood and beyond wifehood. And we are more than the labels of relationships in our families. You're more than a mother. You're more than a daughter. You're more than a sister. You're more than a wife. You're more than a partner. You are you. You, without anybody else, has a reason to be on this earth right now. And you have a voice. And you want to use that voice for something. I don't know what it is. But if you don't know what it is, then there's a constant struggle to find it. And often we displace that emotion, we displace those answers into people, into having children, to satisfy our need for connection, or to finding a mate to satisfy that need for connection. And from experience, now twice, I can tell you, the best time to receive connection with a human is when you've already decided you don't need it, because your connection to source, your connection to yourself and to being in alignment is so strong that you know and trust that you will always be okay no matter what, and that you live your life at a high frequency and enjoy. So I hope that makes sense. Again, the strategy for the feelings and needs list is that if your strategy ends up involving other people, we have not hit the deeper need. So back to my friend and colleague and attendee of my events, when we discovered that her need was for safety, then some of those strategies for safety are going to be financial. They're going to be B and C plans for both work and probably living situation and all kinds of different things. But they don't require anybody else to be involved. As long as she understands the plan and the options, then she can settle into and relax into knowing that she's not going to be stuck. And that's what kept the anxiety going. That's what kept the fear going. But the true need was for safety, and she now knows how to provide that. So I would recommend, Bella, you go back and figure out what your attachment, and you can love him. You can love him with all of your heart. But when you need him on a level to satisfy your anxiety, it means you have an addiction. And the addiction is you're using him as your excuse to not deal with yourself. So please, I beg of all of you, figure out what creative expression you have and need to use so that you don't have to rely on, blame, or depend on anyone else to bring you joy, happiness, and purpose. You have it with yourself, that relationship with you and your source, you and your higher power, you and your higher self, however you want to call it. I don't really care. But what I know for sure is that there's a calling in this lifetime, something that you have inside of you that I believe is the source of most people's depression, because they don't know what it is. They don't know how to find it. They just know they don't feel fulfilled. They don't feel on purpose. They don't feel in alignment. They're frustrated about not feeling free because they're so bogged down to the shoulds of what I should do. Oh, I should stay in this job. I should stay here because it's secure, or other people agree with it, or other people don't agree with it. In fact, I was with somebody recently and I could identify a handful of people that I, in the past 10 years, allowed myself, and actually speaking of that, that was my relationship too. My relationship and then 2 other people. So 3 people on the top of my head right now were people who I allowed them to tell me who I was. Their limitations of me kept me smaller than the yearning that I had inside of me. And stepping into releasing what weighs you down, into the next big step, into running the manifestation challenge, into having these different podcasts, into speaking into the law of attraction, into what I'm doing right now. This is what I've been doing secretly under the radar for a long time. And when I came out and started just stepping into it and saying, I don't give a shit if you don't agree or like it, then don't listen. When I decided that my voice and my mission and my passion was my purpose, and I knew that people who wanted to listen, who would be attracted, would be the right people, and I just trusted the process, that's when the magic happened. And this year for me has been a trust in trusting myself, trusting the process, and not allowing other people's fears and limitations of themselves projected onto me define who I am. So I would hope that you, as a person, Bella, can see and get that it's like any addiction, and codependency is an addiction. Overeating is an addiction. Smoking, drinking, too much sex, too much shopping, too much technology. They're all an addiction. Shiny object syndrome, people pleasing, all an addiction that keep you stuck and keep you not facing the feelings that you have within yourself. So please take this list and keep working with it, but keep digging down deeper and deeper and deeper into the need that no one else can help you with but you. Okay? So I hope that helps. This is a way longer podcast than I thought it was going to be, but I got on a roll. Just want to remind you all that this is the last couple days to sign up for the 30-day manifestation challenge happening in November. And we are also creeping up to the 3-pay option, or are we on the 3-pay? No, we're on the 3-pay option. Creeping up to the 2-pay option on releasing what weighs you down in January. And I will say it's going to be epic. I've had some conversations with some of the presenters, and I don't know that we'll do it again like this. So that's all I'm going to say. It's not trying to bait you. It's being completely honest. I have no more contracts to do this again. While I would like to, I don't know that I can. I don't know that I will. I will do something. I don't know what it'll be. But I'm on the same mission of sort of uncovering how to deliver at best what it is that I do. And while it's powerful, it's got to make sense for everybody. And it's got to fit a rhythm, and it's got to have leverage for me in order for me to keep doing it. And I know the results that keep happening, and I want to share them with you guys. And I want you to come out from behind the car and behind the earbuds and meet your tribe and commune with us and go through some transformation, because it's really freaking powerful. So I hope to see you in the Manifestation Challenge. Go to jjflizanes.com and click on the free tools and resources. And if you're interested in checking out the event, you can still go to jjflizanes.com, click on events, or go to releasingwhatweighyoudown.com. Please watch the testimonials. They're pretty cool. And I hope to see you either in January or at least in November in the Manifestation Challenge. Have a good weekend.